To which I said, Victor Hugo wasn't a hunchback. That didn't seem to hold him up at all. He didn't laugh at that. I don't know if he wasn't listening or if he just didn't get it. I'm not sure. But he went on and on at length, at a great length, at why I couldn't do this and how the industry is in such a disaster and no one's buying fiction and this is the wrong book for this time and I'm ruining my own career and worse, I'm ruining his career too. And the best thing I could do for both of us is just throw this book away, put it away, and go write him something he could sell. And he stopped. And I didn't answer right away because, well, he thought it was because I was so upset by what he had said, but in fact, you've met my wife, I was scribbling furiously on the back of an envelope I had hastily pulled from my bag as I was sitting on the bench outside of Whole Foods. Because I've learned, after 16 years of marriage, that if I don't take careful notes at a conversation of such importance, I can get in big trouble. Because God forbid, in 2 weeks I say something like, oh, and another thing he said, I just remembered. Oh, man. No. Really not a good scene. So I was scribbling furiously on the back of an envelope. I still have that envelope. I was writing down everything he was saying. He said things like, not even William Styron could write from a dog's point of view. Well, but William Styron couldn't write from a dog's point of view. What does that have to do with anything? I mean, but someone could, right? Vonnegut? I don't know. But he wrote all these things. So I didn't respond right away because I was writing notes. And he said, he took my pause for, my being upset. And he said, oh, you must be devastated. And I said, no, I'm not. Because I was writing. And he said, oh, of course you're not, because you're a pro. And I said, no, not because I'm a pro. I said, honestly, it's because I think you're completely wrong. I think there is a market for this book. And then I said the only thing that popped into my head. I said, you're fired. So I fired my agent. Here's a little tip. Here's a little tip for you writers and aspiring writers out there. If you're going to fire your agent over a book, well, okay, let's say that you have written your third novel and it's not yet published, and your first two books have done well, you've gotten nice critical reviews, but they haven't sold tons. And you've come up with your third book, and let's say it's narrated from an alternative point of view, like, oh, I don't know, a dog. And your agent says you should throw it away and you don't want to, and so you get in a fit of rage, you fire your agent on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving when your in-laws are flying into town for this great big Thanksgiving dinner. It's probably best not to tell your wife about that until after Thanksgiving, because you'd be surprised how much dark meat there is on a turkey. Really. So we managed to get through it, but I won't say it was easy. And then I had to go find a new agent, and I sent it to many wonderful agents and had some great flirtations, but I always got the same message back. Like the writing, like the story, it's narrated by a dog. We don't know how to sell it. How do we handle this? And I was getting very, very frustrated. So fast forward to March of 2007. I was doing a fundraiser for King County Library Systems in Seattle, in the Northwest, and they do a thing called Literary Lions. It's a movable feast. So they have 35 writers and 35 tables, and every course they ring a bell and the writers all get up and move to a different table, so everybody gets to have a conversation with different writers. It's a lot of fun, and I always enjoy doing it every year. And I was doing this event in 2007, and I was at the pre-author dinner. They feed all the writers ahead of time. You can figure that out, right? Because the first time they did it, they didn't do that. They said just eat when the food is there. Yeah, but writers are talking. It's like being at your own wedding, like you're always talking, right? And so writers are talking, they're not eating. But you know what? There are these really helpful young men and women wearing white coats who always manage to fill that glass of wine again. You know how they are. And writers, they're always reaching for that glass of wine. So by the time they rang the bell for the third course, you had 35 drunken writers staggering around the room looking for table numbers. So they realized they should feed the writers ahead of time, get some food in their stomachs, so it doesn't get out of control. And so I was at the pre-author dinner, sitting at a table with people I didn't know. We were introducing ourselves, and it came around to me, and I said, "My name is Garth, and And I'm really, really frustrated because I have this book. I think it's really good, but it's narrated by a dog and no agent will touch it. And I don't know what to do. And this writer who was sitting across from me, he looked up and he said, you know what? You should call my agent. He sold my book and it's narrated by a crow. He said, I don't see why you couldn't sell a book narrated by a dog. And this is a true story. His name is Lane Mayhew. His book is called Song of the Crow. I swear to you, this is a true story. That Monday, I emailed his agent with my pages. I sent him the stuff. And 2 days later, on Wednesday, I got a telephone message. I wasn't home. I got a message back from him, which I kept for 99 days. Because that's the maximum you can keep a message on Quest voicemail answering service. And I kept it for so long because he was crying. And he said, I love this dog and I love this book. You have to let me represent this book. And that's the agent I needed. And we worked on it a little bit for a couple months, and by July of that year, actually less than a year after I started writing it in Bend, Oregon, he sold it at a big auction in New York, and now it's in 31 languages, and we did a film deal with Universal Studios, and which is very exciting. Patrick Dempsey is going to be starring as Denny, and he's... Huh?
Voice of Enzo. Who's the voice?
The voice of Enzo. My worst fear is that Jim Belushi is the voice of Enzo. No disrespect to Jim Belushi. I think he's a great comic, but he's much more underdog than he is Enzo. No, that comes further down. You know, my fantasy, of course, would be, and Enzo's fantasy, I think, would be James Earl Jones. But Morgan Freeman. I like that. I like that. So, I tell this story. Not for my own self-aggrandizement, although I said that once and my wife was actually in the audience and she heckled me and shouted out, "Yes, you do!" I think there's something somehow poetically just about what I had to go through to get the book published. Being that it's a story about wanting to achieve your dreams, that Enzo wants to be reincarnated as a person, Danny wants to be a Formula One race car driver, and he wants to have his daughter. He's not going to give up either dream. He's going to keep them both. And he has to struggle through some obstacles. And I guess it would have been easy enough to say, oh, you know what? You're right. I'm going to throw this away and go write a different book. But I guess I didn't do that, and it ended up finding an audience and finding the people who wanted to find it. And in that sense, I guess it's only fair that I had to go through a little bit of heartache to get it out there. But when I look back at it, it really, I guess, wasn't that much heartache. Her name was Eve, and at first I resented how she changed our lives. I resented the attention Denny paid to her small hands, her plump round buttocks, her modest hips. The way he gazed into her soft green eyes which peered out from under stylish strands of straight blonde hair. Did I envy her engaging smile that eclipsed anything about her that might have been considered less than special? Perhaps I did, for she was a person unlike me. She was well-groomed, unlike me. She was everything I wasn't. I went for extended periods without a haircut or a bath, for instance. She bathed every day and had a special person do nothing else but color her hair to Denny's liking. Her attention to every detail of her appearance was reflected in her personality as well. She was an incredible organizer, fastidious in nature, constantly making lists and jotting down notes of things to be done or gotten or assembled, frequently creating what she called honey-do lists for Denny and me, so that our weekends were filled with trips to the Home Depot or waiting in line at the disposal and recycling transfer station in Georgetown.